Okay, a very good evening, guys. Can you all let me know if you all can hear me and see your screen? Yes. Yeah. Right. Okay. Perfect. Mm. Okay. So today, what we will be doing is we will be finishing off revision paper number 4. We couldn't finish it last week. It was a little bit of a longer paper. So what we'll do is we'll finish off revision paper number 4. And then what I'm going to teach you all is the income effect and the substitution effect for a normal, inferior, and a given good. That's a very bit of a complex area, which some teachers also are not sure on how to teach that, right? It's an area that some teachers also get it wrong because there have been changes on how that thing looks also. So because of that reason, certain teachers also mess it up. It's wrong in the teacher's guide also because some teachers, they just look at the teacher's guide and give you all the notes. If they're doing that, they're teaching that completely wrong. So that is what we will be doing today. The first half of the class will finish revision paper number 4. In the second half, we'll start unit number 2. Guys, do you all have the unit number 2 with you? Yes. I have couriered the tute to around 90 odd students who have paid the fees. Others, yes, no, to around 70 odd students. You'll have the tute with you. You paid the fees and you have the unit number 2 and 3 revision tutes with you all. Fine, no? Okay, right. Because there's a little bit of writing to do. I sent a set of tutes today also uh, for those who have paid the fees during the weekend. So you all should get it, I think, by tomorrow or by day after. You all should ideally get your tips. Okay. And also, guys, before I get into that, I wanted to share the good news about the results for the 2020 batch. I remember last time when we were doing the class, only the results were out. So I currently got all of them to, not all of them, at least most of them, to fill a small form for me to analyze the results because I don't want to lie to you all saying I have this much amount of A's, this much amount of A's, without actually having the proper numbers. So I'm happy to say that more than 50% of the students actually has an A for econ, and most of these people are the people who were there for at least 1 year. Now there are some students who actually joined, let's say, around 2-3 months before the exam. There are certain students like that also. So I realized that I did ask them which classes that they joined, right? Did they come for my theory? Did they come for theory revision both, right? So I asked them what and what classes that they joined. So I did a theory revision, fast track, all of that. So I asked them which class that they have joined, and I asked them to put in what result they got for econ. So one thing that I saw is that most of the students who were there at least for a period of 1 year, that is, let's say, some people who have been there for the entire 2 years for theory and revision have, most of them, around 90% have actually got an A. From the ones who have at least been there for 1 year, more than around 75% have got an A. So this is the overall, guys. So in this will include students who joined during the last month of classes. There are students like that as well. But overall, more than 50% of them have got an A. Close to around 70% have got a B. Sorry, A or a B, right? So luckily no one has failed. There are a few students who got an S also, and I did look into the results and to see what happened with these students. They were actually students who joined only for the final seminar. So that means I only taught them for 5 days. So there is nothing much that I can do in the last 5 days, but I'm still glad that they also passed the exam and did really, really well. So overall, this is how the results went for the 2020 batch. Now, why am I telling you this? Is because you all have one entire year. And I'll tell you, this year alone, now you all might have maybe a little less than a year also, we don't know. Okay. This year alone is way more than enough even for you to turn a, right? To turn around and somehow get that A. Because we have only done unit 1 in the revision. We have only done unit 1, 2, 3, 4 in the theory. So there is 12 units in the syllabus. Any unit that you missed, you can purchase the recordings and watch. So everything is properly set. So if you aren't going to make use of it, and if you aren't going to make use of this time and get that A for econ, that means you are ideally not doing the right thing. So I'm telling you guys, remember, this is the last year that you will be going to school, and it's going to be the best year. So have fun, make your memories, but make sure that you also end your schooling life on a high note. Because at the end of the day, when you look back and when you see all the memories that you've made in school, but you have a really bad result, that's going to hurt. Along with all the memories and everything, if you can also have a good A-level result to back it up, that would be really, really nice. And I'll tell you, that's going to make your parents really, really proud. So you'll have more than enough time. So work for it, work hard, whether you come from my class or any other class, that doesn't matter. Work really, really hard and somehow get the thing done. And don't only focus on econ. There are some students who actually, from this, there were people who had an A for econ but has C's for business and accounting. Right? So that also felt really bad. I don't want that to happen also, because if you are a student who can get an A for one subject, definitely you have the capacity to get an A for all the other subjects, because all the subjects are equally at the same level. There is no subject that is very hard. There is no subject that is very easy. I think econ, BS, accounts, all are at the same level. So if you can get an A for one, why can't you get the A for the other two? So that kind of a point is also there. So work hard for all your three subjects and somehow get things done. Okay, right. So to start off with, how many of you all did revision paper number 4? Have you all completed? Now you all had 2 weeks to do this because we didn't finish it last week also. Did you complete the paper? Yes? No? Revision paper number 4. The one that we started off last class. We started this last class, but we didn't finish it last class. Did you all do it? Yes, somewhat. Okay, so I'll send you all the answers also by tonight. So we'll continue from this. I'll spend the first 1 hour discussing this. And then, like I said, the next 1 hour or 1.5 hours will focus on unit number 2. That's a brand new unit. Right. So far in revision paper number 4, we discussed a few questions. We discussed question number 1, which was a very tricky one. We discussed question number 2. We did question number 3, and also we discussed question number 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 have already been discussed. So around half of the paper is done. So today what we are going to start off is with question number 5. And also in the meantime, did you all watch the recording on productive, allocative, and economic efficiency? The one that I put on YouTube. If you did not understand, did you all watch that and complete the tune? What happened to that? I sent you all the recording of, I put it on YouTube also. Which I told you I will not be covering that in class because I don't have the time. Others, no one, only very few have done that. In your unit 1 theory recap, there is an area on productive efficiency, allocative efficiency, and economic efficiency. I told you all last class that I didn't have the time to do it. So I will upload a recording on YouTube for you all to watch and, complete the tune on that area. Okay. Yes, property rights part also, I don't think I uploaded. I'll upload one. Okay. Right. We'll start with question number 5. Question number 5 says, the diagram below shows the production possibility curve of an economy. Briefly explain what would happen to the current and future living standard resulting from a movement from X to Y on the curve. Yes. Can you all tell me, if we talk about an economy, what are the 2 broad categories of good an economy can produce? What are the broad categories of goods? There are 2 main categories. What are they? An economy can produce either what and what? They can either produce capital goods, okay, or else what can they produce? They can also produce consumer goods. What's the difference between the 2? What are consumer goods? We said consumer goods are the goods that you use for your daily consumption, right? It doesn't have to be daily consumption, for final consumption. So for example, maybe clothes, maybe food, maybe, I don't know, maybe your mobile phone, maybe your laptop. Those are called consumer goods. Then what are capital goods? Capital goods are the goods that you produce to produce other goods. Things like what? Things like machines, buildings, factories, equipment. Those were called capital goods. So if you take any economy, they have a choice either to produce consumer goods or to produce capital goods. Now, this choice that they make is going to affect their future economic growth and also their current living standards. So let me quickly show you how that happens, guys. Okay, and then we'll get into question 5. Now, I can't remember if I did go through this in detail last class, but we'll again quickly summarize this. Okay, let's take two countries. One is country A. Okay, we have country A, and let's say we have country B. Country A and country B. So let's say country A, okay, in their, both of them have currently same level of a PPC. Okay, okay, this is the PPC. Let's say country A, guys, is producing at, okay, let's say this is capital goods, this is consumer goods. Capital and consumer goods. Okay, two different countries, almost the same PPC. So let's say country A was producing at this point and country B was producing at this point. Do you think both countries are kind of similar? What can you say about these countries, guys? Country A, let's say, is producing more capital goods. They are producing more capital goods, very little consumer goods. On the other hand, country B is producing a lot of consumer goods, but a very little capital goods. So what can we tell about these two countries now? We'll talk about firstly, what can you tell about the current living standard, guys? Which country do you think has the better living standard? Living standards currently. Is it country A or country B? Guys, others also, those who are not giving me answers. Because more you give answers, the more mistakes you make, the more you all will remember. I don't just look at a screen and wait. Then you all also, go out of focus. Can't remember. So which one do you think has better current living standards? So remember, guys, your current living standard is measured by your consumer goods. Now, just because you have factories and buildings doesn't mean your living standards are high. So your living standards will be high if you have better food, better clothes, a nice house, right? A nice, let's say inside your house, you have better furniture, you have a nice vehicle. Those are consumer goods. So if a country is producing more and more consumer goods, what does that mean? That means that country's current living standard is high. So if you talk about living standard, present living standard, what can we say? If we talk about the present living standard, country A is producing a very little consumer goods, They are producing machines and factories. So their current living standard is comparatively low. But if you take country B, who is producing a lot of consumer goods, so they are producing clothes, vehicles, maybe for daily travel. They are producing, let's say, mobile phones, laptops, right? So a country that is producing more and more consumer goods, they will have, guys, a higher level of current living standard. Is that clear? If we take living standard, whichever country is producing more consumer goods as a current living standard, current high living standard. Then what can we tell about future economic growth, guys? Future growth potential. What can you tell about this? The future growth potential. Tell me which economy will grow a lot in the future? Which economy will have a lot of economic growth in the future? A or B? Which economy is going to have high amounts of economic growth in the future? It's more likely to be economy A. Why? Because can you see, economy A currently, what are they doing? They are producing a lot of capital goods. Economy A is producing a lot of capital goods. Now, what did I tell about capital goods? I said capital goods are produced. Capital goods are the goods used to produce other goods and services. No, so whenever you produce more machines, more factories, more buildings, more equipment, what happens? In the future, those machines, buildings, factories can also produce more goods, no? You'll understand that. So as a result, what happens? In the future, country A is going to go what? Is going to grow by a lot. They're going to have a lot of economic growth. So the future growth potential of country A is going to be high. Then on the other hand, what can we tell about country B? Country B is doing what? They are producing a very little capital goods. They are producing a lot of consumer goods. So therefore, in the future, they will also grow, but they are going to grow only a little. Can you see how I shifted the PPC for A and B? For country A, I shifted the PPC a lot because they're going to grow a lot. But country B, I shifted the PPC a very little. Is that part clear, guys? That is about current consumption and future economic growth. So if you can sacrifice your current consumption, like in country A is sacrificing their current consumption. As a result, they are able to grow a lot in the future. Okay. Country B, currently they are consuming a lot, so their future growth is very little. So that means there is an opportunity cost here, no? Currently, if you enjoy very high living standards and consume a lot of goods, in the future you will have to sacrifice your higher levels of economic growth. But currently, if you can sacrifice your consumption and produce capital goods, then in the future you can grow a lot. So there is always a trade-off, right? If you sacrifice something, you can get something. Okay. Yes. Shall I ask you a question? Can there be a situation where a country, okay, can there be a situation where an economy, right? I'll draw a PPC again. Capital, consumer, okay. Tell me, can there be a situation where a country currently produces a lot of consumer goods, right? They are not producing much of capital goods. While doing this, can there be a situation where this economy also grows a lot? Can there be something like this? High amounts of consumer goods currently, right? They are not producing much capital goods. In the future, their growth is also high. Can you tell me how can this be possible? How can this be possible, guys? Now, this is an exception. Right? Now, usually, if you produce a lot of consumer goods and sacrifice your capital goods, you can't grow much. No? So how can this economy grow, guys? What do you all think? What can they do? This is possible if, what happens? This is possible if the economy or the country can import capital goods. So currently they are producing a lot of consumer goods. They're producing so much of consumer goods. But along with producing more and more consumer goods, if they also import their capital goods, then what happens? They are importing their machines. They are importing their, equipment. I don't think we can import buildings, but let's say machines, equipment. If they can import those, then in the future, they can also grow at a higher level. So remember, this one over here, guys, is an exception. So usually it doesn't happen this way. All right, this is a exception. Usually, if you have a lot of high current consumption, future growth is less. But if you sacrifice your current consumption, future growth is high. How can you have both? If you want to have both, you can have high amounts of consumer goods currently and also import your capital. That way, you can have both high current living standards and high future economic growth. Is that part clear? Shape questions, problems. Okay. Then we're done with this. Right. Then, guys, shall we go to our question now? Our question is saying, briefly explain what would happen to the current and future living standards from a movement from X to Y. So where are we? We are currently at point X. Right? They are saying X to Y, not Y to X. So currently we are here. So currently what are we doing? We are producing a very little capital goods and we are producing a lot of consumer goods. Okay. From this point, we are going to do what? We are going to move from X to Y now. We are going to move from here to here. When we move from X to Y, at point Y, we are producing a lot of capital goods. Considerably lesser amount of consumer goods. So they are asking you, what is going to happen? Just a 2-mark question. What is going to happen to the current and future living standards? First, we'll talk about the current living standard, guys. Can you all tell me what's going to happen to the current living standard? Think and tell me. What do you all think? They were producing a lot of consumer goods. Now they have decreased the amount of consumer goods that they are producing, no? When they go from X to Y. Think they're reducing the amount of consumer goods that they produce. So my question is, what is happening to the current living standard? What do you all think? Is it going to increase? Is it going to decrease? Is it going to remain the same? Quickly give me an answer. What can we say? Current living standard. Guys, current living standard, guys, is going to, what's going to happen? It is going to decrease. It's going to come down. Why? Why is it going to decrease? It's going to decrease because earlier, now how do we measure current living standard? Based on the number of consumer goods they produce, no? So earlier they were producing this many amount of consumer goods. But now when they move from X to Y, they are only producing this much of consumer goods. They have decreased their consumer good production. So living standard is based on how much of consumer goods the people have. So if they move from X to Y, we can say the current living standard has gone where? The current living standard has decreased. Okay. Then on the same side, what can we tell about the future living standard? What can you tell about this? In the future living standard. Future living standard. What can we say about this? Their future living standard, guys, is going to increase, or their standard of living is going to be high. Why is that? So their future, now in your answer, you have to explain it, but I'm not writing the whole answer, right? Their future living standard is going to increase. Why is that? That is because currently when they are sacrificing consumer goods and producing more and more capital goods, what happens? We learned in the future, this economy will grow a lot. There will be economic growth. So why will this increase? Because there is going to be high levels of economic growth. Because when they sacrifice their current consumption, produce more and more capital goods, in the future they are going to grow a lot, then they can produce more and more goods then. So their future living standard will be high. Is that clear, guys? So your answer has to be in a nice small paragraph format, but these main points that I have included should be there. I will give you all the answers type. Don't worry. Is that clear? Fine. Guys, please practice writing answers, okay? I know most of y'all understand these parts, but what you can't do is you can't put this into writing. So that is what we are doing in the revision class, right? Make sure you write answers and come. And then when I send the answers, go through my answers, compare your answers, right? See where you went wrong. No, you have to do that, right? Don't just come and listen to me teaching the theory. That is done in the theory class. In the theory class, we go way more in detail than this and discuss. So revision, always you have to write. I know you all are lazy to write, but if you don't change that now, it's going to be very difficult for the future. So keep on writing, guys. The more and more you write, when you get used to it, it becomes easy. Now, the first few papers, we are still in the fourth paper. So now, sitting at one place and writing an answer is not the most thing that you like to do, right? You're very, very reluctant to do that. But once you get used to it, you will see it's very nice. So get started now itself. Don't wait until the very end. Okay. We'll go into question number 6. Now there's a big question. A big question on PPC. We'll see if we can handle this. They say, draw a production possibility curve reflecting increasing opportunity cost for an economy producing two goods. Public sector goods in the vertical axis, private sector goods on the horizontal axis. Okay. Public sector goods on the vertical. Okay, so public goods. Private sector goods, you can say sector, no problem. Private sector goods on the horizontal axis. Guys, what type of a PPC should I draw? A straight line or a concave PPC? According to the question, they are saying draw a PPC that reflects increasing opportunity cost. Therefore, what should I do? I should draw a concave PPC. Now, you draw a straight line PPC, you go wrong there. Okay. So, we'll draw a small concave PPC. Okay. That is my PPC there. Looks a little bad, no? Let me draw this again. Okay. Is a little imbalanced, still imbalanced, no? Okay, this is the best I can do. Okay, right. Then they say the economy is currently producing at point A, which is located on the midpoint of the production possibility curve, right? So, which is located on midpoint of the production possibility curve, and show it on a diagram. So, they are telling you to show all of this on a diagram. So, you drew the public and private sector thing, you drew the PPC. So, where should A be, guys? A should be somewhere around in the midpoint, no? So, midpoint is, let's say, somewhere around here. Is that the midpoint? No, we'll say my PPC is not the most perfect PPC. Let me draw a more equal PPC. Does that look more equal? Okay, I think fine, right? Okay. So let's say currently we are in the midpoint over here, point A, right? You can draw a more better PPC than mine, guys. Okay, I'm just drawing it this way. Okay. Then, right. Then they're saying part B, subsection 1. Point B, right? So mark the following points on your diagram. Point B, which shows production following the election of a new government, which privatizes many public sector services, but maintains full and efficient employment. Maravan, how do you do this? One is public goods, public sector goods. What are public sector goods? Goods provided by the government. Private sector goods provided by the private sector. So what is happening over here? They are saying production, yes, just think and tell me, guys, what do you all think will happen? Point B, which shows production following the election of a new government. Following the election of a new government. which privatizes many public sector services but maintains full and efficient employment. How do you think we can show this? There is privatization happening. Okay, right? And there is also efficient this thing. What do you all think? Hmm? Any 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 clue? What do you think we can do, guys? Downward movement, upward movement? Some of you all are saying upward movement. Some are saying point towards public goods. Moving along the PPC towards private goods. Downward movement on the point. Ideally, guys, okay, we'll learn a little bit about what is privatization. What is privatization, guys? Privatization means what? It's a current topic that they're currently speaking of. Also, we'll talk about this in detail in unit number 8. What is privatization? Privatization is where government-owned businesses are being sold to the private sector. So in Sri Lanka, we are currently planning to sell the Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation. We are trying to sell Sri Lanka Airlines. So all government-owned businesses, what are we trying to do? We are trying to sell it to the private sector. So move it from government to private sector ownership. So what do you think will happen, guys? If you privatize many public sector businesses, that means now it will be owned by the public businesses will now be owned by the private sector. So where do you think the point will move? Will it move towards public goods or will it move towards private goods? What do you all think? Yes, it's going to move towards private goods, guys. Because when you privatize, right? When you privatize, you're moving, okay, right? You're reducing. Government doesn't get involved now. When you privatize, what happens? It's the private sector who is now producing goods. So you're moving from here to here. This is where you can ideally show point B at. Now, you can make this a little bit more complex. There's another way of thinking. You can even say with privatization, the productivity improves and you can shift the curve from the private sector and do that also, but that's not at your level, not needed, right? So we can say because of privatization, what happens due to privatization? So I'll just put in a few notes also here, guys, so you all can figure it out. Okay. Have I left some space? No. Okay. So you can say due to privatization, what happens? Privatization, public sector production, decreases, and private sector production increases. You can say that. So that is why we are moving A to B. From here, we are going this way because due to privatization, what happens? Government-owned businesses are being sold to the private sector. So when that happens, the amount of goods and services produced by the government sector comes down, private sector increases. Is that clear, guys? I all fine with point B. Can show that on a PPC. Okay. Right. This part is easy, guys. Can everyone give me an answer now? If you all can't do this, you are comparatively a little lost. Point C, where unemployment is present in the economy. Can you tell me where should point C be? It's an easy one, guys. Can all of you all give me an answer if you have not fallen asleep at least? How do we show this on a PPC? Unemployment is present in the economy. How do we show that on a PPC? Unemployment is any point inside the PPC, no? So we'll mark it over here, right? It can be at any point. I'll just mark it right in the middle here, right? So this is point C. So we'll write a small explanation, right? You can say, okay, unemployment, unemployment, unemployment is denoted by a point, inside the PPC. You can show that, right? Then we'll go to the next one, guys, and that was easy, you know. How about this? Point D, where the economy is in a recession. What about this? Point D, where the economy is in a recession. What do you all think? Yes, do we shift the curve inside? No, no. Now, even D, right? I put both of this to show you that, you know, even unemployment and a recession are both point inside. So therefore, what you can say, maybe for point D, so you can show that, you can maybe show that with an arrow. Maybe it might be a little bit more correct also. Even if you show a point inside also, it's correct. So maybe let's show it with the arrow. You're moving from here to here. Let's say point D. So what is your explanation? You can say, when an economy is in a recession, what happens? Recession, aggregate demand, I'll say AD, aggregate demand decreases, okay, output decreases, okay, I'll say output decreases. As a result, what happens? Aggregate demand decreases, output decreases. As a result, there is unemployment. No, remember in a recession, remember during COVID, people were not demanding for goods and services. So firms cut down their output. When firms cut down their output, they don't need the same amount of people working for them. So now machines are idle, people are fired from jobs. That's why a lot of people lost their jobs during COVID. See, so aggregate demand decreases, output decreases, and as a result, what happens? And unemployment, I'll just say unemployment increase. Guys, recession is not a long-term thing, guys. A recession is only for around 2 quarters. What is the long-term scenario? If a recession continues for 2 or more quarters, we call it a depression. In a depression, the PPC will shift inward. In a recession, PPC does not shift. Is that okay, guys? Recession, PPC shifts. Sorry, in a recession, it's a point moving. In a depression, PPC shifts inward. Okay. Then, this one, the next one, point 4. No, it doesn't really have to be in the middle. As long as you can draw a point inwards, it's correct. I am just drawing it at the middle here. You can draw a point towards coming inside, you're correct. Okay. Point E, where the state takes over production of all goods and services. What do you think happens? If the government decides to produce all the goods and services, where do you think this E is? State takes over production of all the goods and services. Where do you think we can put this? So if the state takes over, we can do what, guys? We can put that over where? We can put it over at this point, right? Here, point E, where there will only be public goods. Only the public sector goods will be there. There is no private goods, because why? The state or the government has taken over the production of all the goods. So you can write a small explanation here and say, this is for part 4, right? You can say, okay, if the state takes over production, so I'm not going to write all of that, guys, since I don't have space. If the state takes over production, right, only public sector goods will be produced. So therefore, what happens? You're producing at point E. Is that clear, guys? Yes. Are you all fine? State takes over production. Good. Okay. Now we'll go to part C. I have not left space for another PPC. I just realized. Okay. They say in part C, now draw two new production possibility curves on the same diagram. Oh no, on the same diagram, no? On the same diagram to show the following. The position after a devastating war hit the economy. What do you think? There was a really bad war that happened. What do you think will happen to the PPC now? So earlier this was PPC1. Okay, PPC1. Now what's going to happen? There's a huge war that comes. With a war, what happens? Resources start to get destroyed. No, people die. Labor comes down. Machines, buildings get destroyed. Capital comes down. Yeah. So what happens? With a war, where can we show this, guys? We can show it. I'll show it in a color that I have not used. I'll use orange, like I've used orange, no? Purple. Okay. So with a war, what happens? The PPC shifts inwards. I'll show a shift like this. Okay. So with the war, what happens? The PPC shifts inwards like that. That is what happens with the war. So I will label this as PPC 2. This is the answer for part C, question 1. Is that fine? What happens with the war? PPC shifts inwards. Shape up. Then the last one. Part 2. Part 2 says there is an increase in productivity by 50% in the public goods sector and 100% in the private goods sector. How do we show that? Now, my diagram might not be the perfect diagram to show that, but how do you show? Productivity 50% by the public good sector productivity has gone up by 50%. Private sector good productivity has gone up by 100%. How can we show that, right? Yes, I'll show that in a separate thing, because if I put this in this, it will get a little messy. Okay, so I'll put this into this thing. Okay, so I'll show it on a separate diagram. Watch carefully. Okay, let's say this is our PPC. Okay, so we had public goods in this axis, we had private goods in this axis, and then we had the PPC. Okay, so what is the question saying? Question is saying there has been an improvement in productivity of public goods by 50%. So ideally, guys, what you can do is you have to use equal distances here. Now, if this is 100%, right, this is half of it, no? So another half of it has gone up kind of. So you can put numbers also. You can say here earlier you can produce a maximum of 100 public goods. Now, if it improves by 50%, you can produce 150 public goods. Then private goods, let's say earlier if you produced 100 private goods, now there is a 100% productivity improvement. So now you can take an equal distance, right? Now you can produce 200 private goods. So your PPC will go like this, guys. Let me show this to you in yellow. Okay, it will go from here to there. Okay, not the most nicest PPC, no? Okay, so it's going to have a huge amount of growth in the private sector. Public sector grows by 50%. Private sector grows by 100%. So you can show a diagram like this. Don't worry, guys. In your A-level paper in the PPC, you will not get so many things to show right now. The question I made is a little bit more hard. There are so many things to show. That's why the diagram is a little complex. But don't worry, your A-level paper question will not be that complex. They will not have 10 things to show in one diagram. Is that clear, guys? When they give you numbers, right, when they say 50%, 100%, try to put some numbers in your PPC and explain. That's more accurate. Now, when they show a 50% improvement, here, 100 gone to 150. So you can say 50% over here. Then 100% improvement in private goods, 100 gone to 200. Here, 100% growth in private goods. So that is a more accurate and a correct answer. Try to take proper distances also. Along with taking proper distances, put some numbers. Then the examiner knows, this fellow knows what he's doing. He has taken 50% and 100% here. Is that okay, guys? I all fine? For the last part. So this is question C, part 2. Okay. Right. That was an interesting question, no? How many of you all got most of these correct, guys? At least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many marks? 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 marks. At least you all got around 6 to 7 marks of this. Yes. Fine. Right. Okay. So small things, work on it and improve it. Good. We'll go into question 7. So we have question 7, we have question 8 and 9. Now, question 7, this is a little bit of homework that you all were supposed to do. Okay. So can you all tell me, question 7 says, are all points on a production possibility curve economically efficient? Explain the concepts of production, allocative, and economic efficiency with the use of a PPC. Can you give me an answer for the first part first? Are all points on the PPC economically efficient? Does all points on the PPC represent economic efficiency? Yes or no? It does not. Then all points on the PPC represents what? Any point on the PPC represents? It doesn't represent economic efficiency, correct? And then what does it represent? It represents productive efficiency or production efficiency. If you all watch the video, you all would have figured it. Where is the video? Don't ask me where is the video. Video, guys, there is a whole playlist for the 100th time, right? Go to YouTube, go to my channel, iTutor SL. There is a playlist that was made for you all itself, right? Menna metana 2024 A-level revision. In that, we'll see how many of you all watched the video. I can see the views now. Here's a 34-minute video on productive, allocative, and economic efficiency. May tiene views tiene 27. So 27 views mean not all of you all would have watched full also. Some of you all would have watched and watched for 2 minutes and closed it. So ideally, maximum around 15 of you all would have watched that part. Okay, so please go through this part and complete the note, right? I explained the whole story because I don't have time in class. Okay, so that you have to do for your homework, right? So then, guys, I'm not going into very detail to explain all of this again, but we'll quickly talk about this, right? Yes, can you quick tell me what is productive efficiency or production efficiency? What is this? In very simple terms, what does this mean? Productive or production efficiency refers to what, guys? Refers to doing what? Obtaining, or you can say producing, right? Producing the maximum, not, don't just say maximum, say maximum sustainable output. That's more correct, right? So say producing the maximum sustainable output by doing what? By utilizing all the resources in an economy. By utilizing all the resources in economy, if you can produce the maximum sustainable output, we call that productive efficiency. And then can you tell me what are the, guys, I'm not teaching this newly, right? You all were supposed to watch that video and come. I'm just highlighting the main things that you all should have in your answer. What are the two conditions that you should have to have productive efficiency, guys? The two conditions. Number one, you need to have full employment, right? You need to have full employment. And then number two, you need to have another. You need to have full production, right? So full employment and full production. And then, guys, if you achieve productive efficiency, where will you be operating on the PPC? If an economy has achieved productive efficiency, how is it represented? Represented on a point where? Represented on, or we can say represented by a point, on the PPC. At any point on the PPC is productively efficient. Okay. Then, guys, what about allocative efficiency? What can you tell about this? What is allocative efficiency? Allocative efficiency, yeah. This is when you do what? Allocative efficiency. Producing the most desirable goods and services, no? Right? This is what? Okay. Now, so allocating resources to produce the goods most desired. We can say the most desired goods, right? To produce the goods most desired by the society. So based on society's preferences, you're allocating and producing the most desired goods and services. Then, guys, can you tell me, for us to have allocative efficiency, what is the condition? Condition? What is the condition? Marginal cost should equal marginal benefit, or you can write the other way. Marginal benefit equals marginal cost. Marginal benefit, or marginal benefit can also be substituted with what? Instead of MB, we can also say what? We can also call this the marginal benefit, can also be known as, or can also be substituted with the price. So this is the right. Then economic efficiency. How do we do this? Economic efficiency, I will write on this side since I don't have much space. Economic efficiency is when you have what? When you have achieved both productive and allocative efficiency. When you are producing the most maximum sustainable output of an economy, right? Producing the most desired goods and services, you can say at the most efficient level. So when you have what? When you have both productive and allocative. So I'll just say PE plus AE. Productive efficiency and allocative efficiency, both put together, is economic efficiency. Okay. So these main points have to be there in your answer, guys. Right now, I'm just giving point forms. Then how about the diagram? What is this? I have just given you all the format for the diagram. So this diagram can be the PPC. So maybe let's say this is good X and good Y, or you can say capital and consumer goods. No problem. Yes. Okay. Then let's say this is the point of economic efficiency, point A. So then this has to be the point where the marginal benefit and the marginal cost, marginal benefit. So this is for good X, good X. And then on the same side for good Y, also the marginal benefit, marginal cost, marginal benefit. This is for good Y. Okay. So the point where the marginal cost and marginal benefit for good X and Y are equal to each other, and you're also on the PPC. So this can be economic efficiency. So you need to know how to represent. Is that okay, guys? Please watch the video if you can't remember any of this, because I'm not going to go through all of this point by point. You were supposed to go through and right. I'll give you all a few minutes if you all want to just complete this diagram. Pagala. Okay. Right. And now we'll get into question number 6. Yes, what do you think about this? It's a bit of a different question. They're asking, explain how production possibility curves, PPCs, might be used in assessing a country's economic performance. How can we use a PPC to assess a country's economic performance? Okay, tell me a few things. Can you give me some criteria to assess a country's economic performance, to see whether a country has been doing well or not? Based on what kind of things can we say, guys? Now, if you say, okay, Sri Lanka has been doing well in the recent years, based on what? Now, so give me some criteria. Now, for example, if they ask you, okay, you have been doing well during the recent years, what does that mean? Maybe you have got good school term marks. Maybe you have got a good job. There are certain criteria, right? So that's what I'm asking. So what are the criteria, right, to measure economic performance? Then how does the PPC help with that? Can you give me some criteria? One thing is, I'll tell you one thing that you can look at is definitely economic growth. Don't you all think, guys? Economic growth. So if the economy has grown, right? If the economy has grown, you can say, look here, wow, that means the economy has been performing well. Good, right? Then maybe another criteria, full employment. So if the economy has been able to use all of its resources, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, and produce most of the goods and services that they are able to produce. So full employment, good. So that can be one. Then, okay, like you all have said, fair income distribution, right, can also be a criteria. Economic stability, yes, can also definitely be a criteria. Likewise, there are so many criteria. Now, do you all realize that some of these criteria can be shown using a PPC, and they're asking for that in this question? Can you see? Explain how a production possibility curve might be used in assessing a country's economic performance. So how can you start your answer? You can say a country's economic performance. Yes, you can even say recession and all that. Will connect that with full employment. Okay. So you can say, right? So you can say now full employment. With all of this, you can put now recession is when you have unemployment. Okay. So you can say a country's economic performance can be measured using several criteria, some of which are the economic growth of a country, the uh, let's say the extent to which the country has been able to use all of its resources and produce goods, and so let's say, in other words, if the economy has achieved full employment. So you can say something. You can say economic performance can be measured using these things. Small introductory paragraph. Then you can say a PPC can help illustrate this in the following manner. And then you can say economic growth. See, how can we measure economic growth? Here, when there is economic growth, look here. Wow, PPC will show that it has gone up. Then full employment. How does the PPC show full employment? On a point on the PPC. So, question is not hard, but you have to come up with an answer. And I don't want you all to write pages and pages as well. Yes, I just want to ask you all, is the space, is the line, now for the people who actually wrote answers, is the lines that I have given to write answers, is it enough, or do you all want more space? Because then now 2 and 3 I've already made. At least in the future, I can add more lines. I don't add too much of lines also, because then is it enough or need more? Need more. Right. Okay. Then for some questions, I'll add more, right? I think it's not enough, no? Okay. So I'll try to add in a little bit more lines. Okay. Sorry about that, because I changed the whole theory revision program that I did for the previous batches. So I'm still making these papers newly now every week, every time. So therefore, I'll look into that, right? Thank you for letting me know. Is that fine, guys? Can you all answer a question like that? I'll give you the answer also. So your first thing is saying a country's economic performance can be measured using several criteria, such as economic growth and also full employment. Then you can say a PPC will help to illustrate this in the following manner. Economic growth. The PPC, you can draw the PPC and show a shift in the PPC to the right illustrates that the economy has grown, right? And then you can say full employment. Any point on the PPC will illustrate full employment. So therefore, you can say a production possibility curve is kind of useful, or is useful in assessing a country's economic performance. It's a very simple thing, guys. There is nothing big to write, but you all need to practice writing. Only then you get better at it. Is that fine? Question 8. So we do the last question and then take a small break and come to the other part. Okay, right. Then we'll come to question 9. Right. Now, guys, I want all of you all to give me an answer for this guy. It's an interesting question. The answers are also short answers when you put them good. Answer the following questions based on the PPC given below. Right. What is the opportunity cost when moving from point B to C? What's the opportunity cost? You're moving from B to C. So when you're moving from B to C, you're increasing the production of consumer goods. So what are you sacrificing? That's your opportunity cost, guys. What are you sacrificing? You're sacrificing what? You're sacrificing 200 units of capital goods. That is your answer. What is the opportunity cost? 200 units of you don't have to say units of also, you can say 200 capital goods, right? 200 units of capital goods. Then tell me, guys, next thing, what is the opportunity cost from moving from C to B? If you go the other way, now what's the opportunity cost? You're increasing capital goods by 200. To increase capital goods by 200, what do you have to sacrifice? You have to sacrifice 40 consumer goods. So opportunity cost is what? 40 units of consumer goods. Done. Then the next one. Now see, interesting one. What is the opportunity cost of producing 600 capital goods? Think. Because you're producing 600 capital goods, how much of consumer goods can't you produce? That's your opportunity cost. I am not saying opportunity cost of moving from A to B, this thing to this thing. I'm asking you, what is the opportunity cost of producing 600 capital goods? Read the graph properly and see. When you're producing 600 capital goods, you can only produce 80 consumer goods. So how much of consumer goods can't you produce because you're producing 600 capital goods? Because you're producing 600 capital goods, this distance right here, this 20 consumer goods cannot be produced. So if they ask you what is the opportunity cost of producing 600 capital goods, your answer has to be 20 consumer, 20 consumer goods. Done. Then the next one, what is the opportunity cost of producing 35 consumer goods? 35 shall we go with shall we make a small correction, guys? There is no 35 in the question. Shall we make this 40? 40, right? Tell me, what is the opportunity cost of producing 40 consumer goods? Because you're producing 40 consumer goods, how much of capital goods can't you produce? How much of capital goods can't you produce? No, you can't produce this. You can only produce 800 capital goods if you're producing 40 consumer goods, meaning 200 capital goods cannot be produced. So what is your opportunity cost? 200 capital, 200 capital. Is that clear, guys? So far, you all fine? The first 4 parts? Okay. Okay. Then they're asking, what is the opportunity cost of moving from G to B? G to B. So think, do you have to sacrifice anything? You're going from point G to point B. You can say there is no opportunity cost, or you can say there is zero opportunity cost. Why, guys? Because point G is in unemployment. When you're going for B, can you see? You can increase capital also, you can increase consumers. Yes, even for point F to B is also the same. Okay, so you can say there is zero, or in other words, you can say there is no opportunity cost. Zero or no opportunity cost. Next one. What is the opportunity cost when moving from G to F? What do you all think? G to F. What's the opportunity cost? Point G is this. You're going from G to F. Now, when you're going from G to F, you're increasing capital goods by from 550 to 700. You're sacrificing consumer goods by 5. So can I say my opportunity cost is 5 consumer goods when I'm going from G to F? Can I say my opportunity cost is 5? Now, think, when I'm going from point G to point F, I'm increasing capital goods from 550 to 700, reducing consumer from 25 to 20. So what you're reducing now is your opportunity cost. So my question is, can I say that the opportunity cost is 5 consumer goods? The question comes, guys, do I definitely have to sacrifice 5 consumer goods in order to increase capital goods to 700? Currently, I'm producing 550 capital goods. So for me to produce 700 capital goods, should I definitely reduce the consumer goods? No, right? I can increase I can go to 700 capital goods even by still producing 25 consumer goods. No, don't you all think? Without reducing the consumer goods by 5, I can still increase my capital goods to 700. So even though it looks like when you're going from G to F, even though it looks like you're sacrificing 5, that is not the reality. The reality is that is because of you are inefficient. You've been not using your resources properly. So in reality, guys, there is no opportunity cost from going from G to F. Here also, it is 0, or you can say no opportunity cost. Why? Because when you're going from G to F, you don't necessarily have to sacrifice 5 consumer goods. Here you are sacrificing, but you don't really have to do it, no? You can go to, going to F means you're increasing capital goods to 700. You can increase capital to 700 even without sacrificing consumer goods. There is no real opportunity cost. Is that clear, guys? Yes. Fine. Okay. Then I'll erase this a little. What is there in this thing? It's a little messy, no? Right? Okay. Now they are also asking for an opportunity cost. Right? They're asking you. The next one is asking, what is the opportunity cost from moving from G to A? Point G to A. What do you think? Now, G to F, there was no opportunity cost. What if you move from G to A? What do you think? What do you all think? Okay, think, guys. Is there a way that we can, while producing 25 consumer goods, is there a way to consume 1,000 capital goods? Along with 25 consumer goods, can we also get 1,000 capital goods? Now, earlier there was a way, right? Now, can't you see earlier when we went from G to F, while producing 25 consumer goods, we also can get 700 capital goods. So there was no opportunity cost piece. Now my question I'm asking you, එහෙම කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? Can we do this? So while still consuming 25 consumer goods, can we still consume 1,000 capital goods also? We can't, right? So if we are to go for 1,000 capital goods, right now we are going from this point to this point, right? So now, don't you think we definitely have to sacrifice this? When you're going from G to A, that 25 consumer goods that you are producing now has to definitely be sacrificed. You are like, therefore, there is an opportunity cost. Yeah. You definitely have to sacrifice. You, while producing, you can't produce 25 consumer goods and also 1,000 capital goods. No? So you have to sacrifice this if you want to go there. So therefore, there is an opportunity cost. No, when you're going from G to A, you're increasing capital goods by 450, 550 to 1,000. Along with going there, you have to sacrifice this 25 consumer goods. So your opportunity cost will be, guys, 25 consumer goods. Is that okay, guys? Save them. Yes. Okay. Right. There was a question on the third one again. I'm guessing this is the one that you're referring to. Okay. So this is asking, what is the opportunity cost of producing 600 capital goods? So how do you look at this? We say, now opportunity cost, you say, because you're producing 600 capital goods, how much of consumer goods can't you produce? That's your opportunity cost. No, think, when you're producing 600 capital goods, okay, you can only produce 80 consumer goods. No? So, මෙන්න මෙතන තියෙන 20 consumer goods, the 20 consumer goods over here, you have sacrificed it, right? When you produce 0 capital goods, you can produce 100 consumer goods. But now, because you're producing 600 capital goods, you can only produce 80 consumer goods. So, මෙන්න මෙතන තියෙන the 20 consumer goods, you have sacrificed. That is how that answer comes. What is the opportunity cost of producing 600 capital goods? Is the 20 consumer goods. Okay. Can I explain again? Opportunity cost of moving from G to F. G to F once again, right? So when you're moving from G to F, I am saying opportunity cost is 0. Why? Because point G to F, now when you look at the diagram, it looks like you're sacrificing 5 units of consumer goods. But my question is, do you definitely have to sacrifice that 5? No, right? If you want to increase capital goods from 550 to 700, you can do that by producing at this point, no? I'll mark this point in, I don't know, blue, let's say, right? You can produce it at that point, right? While producing the 25 consumer goods, you can also achieve the 700 capital good mark. Got it? So therefore, there is no real opportunity cost. That's why I'm saying there is no opportunity cost when you're going from G to F. Okay? Now, then, done. Right, last one, last two. Calculate the marginal opportunity cost when moving from point A to point B. Now, guys, when they say marginal opportunity cost, marginal. What are they saying, guys? When you're going from point A to point B, to calculate the marginal opportunity cost. How do you calculate marginal opportunity cost, guys? What is the equation? Marginal opportunity cost is the opportunity cost of producing one extra unit, no? So to produce 40 more consumer goods, we have to sacrifice 200 capital goods. So marginal opportunity cost means to produce one more consumer good, how much of capital goods should be sacrificed? For 40, 200. Then for one, how much? That is what marginal opportunity cost is. So what is the equation for marginal opportunity cost, Lamai? Marginal opportunity cost is equal to your foregone number of units, right? Foregone number of units divided by your gained number of units, no? So, Balan, when you're going from A to B, how much are you foregoing? Foregoing can sacrificing. You're sacrificing 200 capital goods. Foregone. So, foregone divided by gain. So, foregone 200, gain key. You're gaining, when you're going from A to B, you're gaining 40 consumer goods. So then what is my marginal opportunity cost? 5. 5 monad. 5 what? You can't just say 5. So when you're going from A to B, what are you sacrificing? When you're going from A to B, you're getting consumer goods. Opportunity cost is what you're sacrificing. So 5 units of what? 5 units of capital goods. 5 units of capital goods. Is that clear, guys? How you do the calculation? When they say marginal opportunity cost or opportunity cost of producing one extra unit, then only you use the equation. Okay. Last one. What is the opportunity cost, marginal opportunity cost when moving from D to C? Okay, so you were at point D, now you're going to C. Can you tell me? We are sacrificing 15 consumer goods. D to C, we are sacrificing 15 consumer goods. We are gaining how much? 300 capital goods. So what's our equation? Foregone divided by gain. Foregone here the 15 consumer goods. Right? 50. What is our gained amount? 300 going to 600. So gained is a 300. So what is my opportunity cost then? 0.05. 0.05 of what? Units of what are you sacrificing when you're going from D to C? D to C, what are you sacrificing? What are you giving up? You're giving up consumer. So 0.5 units of consumer goods. Is that okay? Safe? Fine. Right. Okay. So that is it with revision paper number 4. I think there was a lot to learn. Did you all make the short note? Gain this 600, then gain this 300 when you're going from D to C, right? At point D, you produce 300 capital goods. Now you're going to 600 capital. So you're gaining only 300. Yeah. Right. Did you all make the short note? Yes, no? I did not get any pictures from the unit 4 short note though. If you all make, guys, do send me a picture, right? Okay, done. So then with this, unit number 1 of the revision class is done and dusted. So this was what we were supposed to do for free for the entire month of August. We took the first class of July, September also and did it. So the free classes end with that. So if you all are continuing for classes, guys, now you all have an idea about how the revision program works. We focus a little bit on the theory recap and then we do the paper. Theory recap part, I go a little faster because that is mainly done in the theory class. We go into very detailed etana. So my focus is not on recapping the theory much. I just do that to brush up your thing. And the main focus is on working on your answers and getting the paper done. So little by little, I think we've come to end. So what I want you all to do is, if you have still not finished, make sure at least by the end of this week, you finish unit number 1. So what does that mean? You make all the short notes, you do the 4 papers, you go through your theory recap notes and whatever notes that you have, and you finish it. Because I'll tell you guys, unit number 1 itself gives you around 28 to 30 marks in your A-level paper. Out of 200, 28 to 30 marks. So one first essay question, 20 marks, around 4 to 5 MCQs, that's 8 to 10 marks. So 28 to 30 marks of the A-level paper comes from the 4 classes that we did, including the 4 classes before and the today's one. So please make sure that you're experts, guys. Remember, in business studies and all, you all learn something called specialization. So unit number 1, 2, 3 and the stuff are the easiest units. 1, 2, 3, 4 AM. So those units, try to do the best. Try to get full marks out of those units. I'll just tell you, right? I always been telling you this. From unit number 1, 2 and 3, you can actually pass the exam. Even without looking at any other units, with 1, 2, 3, you can pass the exam if you 100% know it. Because unit number 1, 2, 3 alone gives you 90 marks from the 200 marks. That is why it's important. 15 MCQs, 3 essay questions. So if you can master unit number 1, 2, 3, now 2 and 3 we'll be doing this month and the next month. No? So work on your short notes, write the right answers, do the calculation. So within last month, this month and the next month, within the next 3 months, if you can master these 3 units, that's 90 marks out of 200 marks, guys. You only need 80 out of 200 to pass. And I'm not focusing on just passing the exam. We'll focus on getting the A. But I'm telling you how important these units are. So don't let it go, guys. Now, you will not see this in any other subjects. In any other subjects, 3 units is not going to give you this much of a weightage. For business studies, first 3 units, I don't know how many marks it gives. Accounting also, I don't know. First unit is about introduction to accounting, double entry, I don't know what they have. But you're not going to get that much. But in econ, you specialize on the first 3, you can pass the exam. So that is why it's very important, guys. Again, I'm telling you all, don't just learn the theory now for all the subjects, right? Not just econ. Work on your answer writing, because I know so many of y'all understand the theory. You can't write an answer. You don't know how to put in a paragraph. You don't know how to get the words together. So only if you write, you will get better at it. So I can't come and hold your hand and write answers with you. You have to write on your phone. So you all are not babies anymore. So with that, we'll wrap up unit number 1. If you all have any questions, you all can ask. We'll take a small break and start unit number 2. I'm not going to go through the entire area. I'm going to go through a very difficult area of this one, guys. For unit number 2, I'm going to go through this easy parts we will go through next week. This difficult part over here, this one, right? How the substitution, income, and the price effect, how does it work for a normal good, inferior good, and for a given good? I did not go through this in the theory class with y'all because it will be a little too advanced for y'all at that level. So this time only, I will go through it with you. So we'll take a small break. I'll need around 40 minutes for this part, which is the most, is a really difficult part. So I'll send the answer script of today's unit paper 4 also by tonight, or at least by tomorrow morning. You all can then get it complete, right? So shall we take a break and then come for unit number 2? I'm hoping you all have the tute with you. How long? We'll take a 6-minute break. Okay. So we'll take a break till here 5:40. Okay. So take a break till 5:40 and come back. We'll go through this part. Take a break and come.